Russell Westbrook, the triple-double king, the human fast break, the turnover machine, OKC's most beloved, the Lakers' most hated, Beastbrook, Westbrick. Few players in NBA history have inspired this many nicknames, both out of admiration and out of frustration. And that right there kind of sums up his career. Russ has been one of the most polarizing players of his generation. To some, he's the ultimate competitor, relentless, explosive, emotional. A player who plays every random Tuesday in January like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. To others, he's reckless, out of control, too stubborn to change. But here's the part nobody can argue. Russell Westbrook has had one of the most impactful careers the league has ever seen. We're talking about a former MVP, a 9-time All-Star, multiple-time All-NBA selection, and the first player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double for a season. Actually, scratch that. He didn't just do it once, he did it 4 times. Westbrook didn't just put up numbers, he bent the way we think about numbers. He turned the triple-double from a historic anomaly into a nightly expectation, and he did it playing at 100 miles per hour. No pacing, no load management, just pure, unfiltered aggression. But his career hasn't been clean, it hasn't been smooth, it hasn't followed the traditional superstar arc. It's been loud, it's been messy, it's been incredible, and it's been frustrating. So today we're going to break down the full journey of Russell Westbrook, from explosive UCLA guard to OKC cornerstone to MVP to league-wide journeyman and everything in between. Because love him or hate him, you felt Russell Westbrook, and that alone makes him one of the most unforgettable players of his era. Before the MVPs, before the triple-doubles, before the fashion tunnel walks and sideline stare-downs, Russell Westbrook was not the headline guy. Coming into UCLA, Westbrook wasn't viewed as a future NBA superstar. He wasn't even viewed as the best guard on his own college team. That title belonged to Darren Collison. Russ had to wait his turn and play spot minutes off the bench his freshman season. As a sophomore for the Bruins, Russ became a starter. He averaged about 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. What stood out wasn't the stat sheet, it was the motor, the defense, the explosion, the way he attacked the rim like it personally offended him. He wasn't polished, he wasn't a pure shooter, but he was relentless. And in the 2008 NBA draft, that upside was enough. With the 4th overall pick, the Seattle Supersonics selected Russell Westbrook.
With the 4th pick in the 2008 NBA draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Russell Westbrook from UCLA.
Even start in his high school team until his junior season. Now he's the 4th overall pick in the NBA draft.
One of the final major moves in Sonics history before the franchise relocated and became the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now his rookie year was very solid. In a competitive Rookie of the Year race, Westbrook finished 4th, averaging 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. Efficient? Not really. Controlled? Definitely not. But the athleticism was obvious, the speed was obvious, and most importantly, the confidence was already there. You could see it. He wasn't playing like a rookie trying to survive, he was playing like someone who believed he belonged. And what nobody realized at the time was that OKC had just paired this hyper-explosive guard with a skinny 19-year-old named Kevin Durant, and things were about to escalate very quickly. Westbrook exploded onto the scene. By his 3rd season in the league, he made his first All-Star and All-NBA team, and that 2011 season, the Thunder proved themselves as serious threats to the rest of the league. Built around a core of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Serge Ibaka, they won 55 games and finished 4th in the Western Conference. In the playoffs, the Thunder made quick work of the Denver Nuggets, eliminating them in 5 games. In the second round, OKC met the grit and grind Memphis Grizzlies. OKC's high-octane offense met the tenacious defense of Memphis. The series went back and forth, lasting 7 games, and in Game 7, Durant finished with 39 points, and Russ dropped a triple-double with 14 points, 10 boards, and 14 assists to advance to the conference finals, where they would face Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. Nowitzki averaged a ridiculous 32 points per game, and this time OKC would fall in 5 games, becoming another victim of Dirk's legendary run. Russ averaged an inefficient 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists across the series. Still, it was clear that Russ wasn't just a promising young guard or high upside athlete anymore. Russ was officially a star. And playing next to Kevin Durant, he was proving to be one of the best co-stars in the league. A relentless downhill force next to one of the most gifted scorers the league had ever seen. And the next season in 2012, it all came together. The Oklahoma City Thunder made the NBA Finals. First, they ran through the West, sweeping Dirk and the Mavs, then beating Kobe and the Lakers in 5 games, and defeating the Big Three Spurs in 6 games. In the finals, they met LeBron James and the Miami Heat. Westbrook and Durant carried the offense of OKC alone, like in Game 4 when Russ and KD combined for 71 of the Thunder's 98 points. But without an extra offensive push from any of the role players, they would fall in 5 games. But here's the important part. Nobody thought it was the end. If you asked any NBA fan in 2012, they would have told you this was just the beginning. Durant was 23, Westbrook was 23, James Harden was 22. 3 future MVPs. What could possibly go wrong? Well, that offseason, OKC made one of the most debated decisions in franchise history. They traded their reigning 6th Man of the Year, James Harden, to the Houston Rockets. In return, they received Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, and draft picks. At the time, it was framed as a money decision, a small market team managing contracts, plus Harden just came off of a terrible NBA Finals series, but in hindsight, this was the moment the ceiling lowered. Now, 2013. This is the most underrated stretch of Westbrook's career. Before the MVP, before the triple-double chaos, this might have been Russ at his most complete. He averaged 23 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. His mid-range game was sharper, his decision-making was tighter, he was explosive but controlled. And then in the playoffs, disaster struck.
Pick up that garbage. 42-41 in Westbrook.
Patrick Beverley dove at his knee in the first round. Russ tore his meniscus and OKC's title hopes collapsed. Without Russ, OKC would fall in 5 games to the Grizzlies in the second round. In 2014, Westbrook battled injuries again, playing in only 46 games of the season. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant ascended. Durant won league MVP, averaging over 32 points per game, and delivered that emotional "You the real MVP" speech.
You sacrificed for us. You the real MVP.
But for the playoffs, Russ was back and OKC was ready to go. In the first round, they played the grit and grind Grizzlies lineup again. And once again, the series went to 7 games. The Grizzlies' leading scorer, Zach Randolph, was suspended in Game 7 for punching Steven Adams.
Play like that, but that one is let go. And here you see Randolph going at Adams, and Ed Malloy, the official.
Without Zebo, OKC would win 120 to 109. KD finished with 33 points, and Westbrook had another triple-double with 27 points, 10 boards, and 16 assists, along with 7 turnovers. The next series, the Thunder defeated the Lob City Clippers in 6 games, including an incredible Game 5 come-from-behind victory. Once again the conference finals, and once again a matchup with the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs brandished their unselfish style of basketball, and OKC had a strategy of just give it to Russ or KD. Game 1, blowout for the Spurs. Game 2, blowout for the Spurs. Games 3 and 4 were decisive victories for OKC. Game 5, blowout for the Spurs. And in Game 6, we finally had a real competitive game. San Antonio had a balanced attack, with Boris Diaw leading the way off the bench with 26 points. In the fourth quarter, OKC outscored San Antonio by 10. Russ and KD combined for 24 of the team's 32 points in the fourth to force OT. In OT, KD shot 0 of 3, and Russ won a 7. And just like that, San Antonio advanced to the NBA Finals. Then 2015 flipped everything. This time Durant got injured, and for the first time in his career, Westbrook was the unquestioned number 1 option. And what did he do? He went nuclear. He won the scoring title, started dropping triple-doubles and hitting game winners. He averaged 28 points, 7 rebounds, 8.5 assists a night, and this was the first glimpse of the MVP version of Westbrook, the I will drag this team with me version. But OKC missed the playoffs by 1 game, and that near miss would loom large. Maybe Westbrook was as good as KD after all? Maybe Russ was trying to compete with KD? At least one person thought so. Then came 2016, fully healthy, fully loaded. OKC looked like a contender again. They won 55 games, good for 3rd in the Western Conference. And OKC advanced past the Mavericks in the first round. Next they beat the 67-win Spurs led by Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge.
I don't even know where you're sitting at.
The next test, unanimous MVP Stephen Curry and the 73-win Golden State Warriors. And surprisingly, they went up 3-1 and it looked like OKC was about to defeat the best team since the Jordan Bulls. 3 games to 1. 1 win away from the finals. And then, it unraveled. Golden State stormed back. In Game 5, KD had 40 points, Westbrook had 31, but they both shot below 40% from the field and lost by 9. Game 6, Klay Thompson, 41 points with 11 threes made, and again Russ and KD both shot below 40%. Finally, Game 7, to go to the NBA Finals, and Westbrook put up a stinker. 7 of 21 from the field, all the while Steph Curry finished OKC off with 36 points and 8 assists. OKC lost the series, and what happened next shocked everyone. Kevin Durant was a free agent, but surely he wouldn't leave a team that was 1 game away from the NBA Finals, right? Playing alongside arguably another top 5 player in the league? Well, he did. And of course he didn't just go anywhere, he joined the Warriors. The same team that had just eliminated them, the 73-9 team. And in that moment, the entire direction of Westbrook's career changed. the co-star narrative was gone, the dynasty dream was over, and for the first time, Russ was alone. Now that Russ was by himself, the basketball world didn't expect much. Most analysts predicted OKC would fall into mediocrity. Some thought they'd miss the playoffs entirely, and instead, Russell Westbrook authored one of the most statistically absurd seasons in NBA history. He averaged 31.6 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 10.4 assists a night. A triple-double, something that hadn't been done since 1962 when Oscar Robertson did it in black and white TV. And he didn't just coast these numbers either, he was hunting wins. Clutch shots and game winners, that 50-point triple-double against Denver to eliminate them from playoff contention was one of the coldest regular season moments ever. And the narrative? It was perfect. The abandoned superstar, the loyalty guy, the player who stayed.
Westbrook gives the Thunder the...
Meanwhile, his former teammate James Harden was in Houston putting up monster numbers of his own. 29 points, 8 boards, and 11 assists per night. It became one of the tightest MVP races in recent memory. Harden had the wins, better efficiency, the step back, and was stirring the pot. Westbrook had the historic stat line, the tomahawks, and the storyline. In the end, Russ won league MVP.
Sometimes it be like that. Yeah. Amazing year.
The first player in decades to average a triple-double, and the first Thunder player to win MVP since Durant. But the season didn't end with a storybook run. In the playoffs, we got the matchup everyone wanted, Westbrook versus Harden, former teammates, now rivals. The Thunder faced the Rockets in the first round. Russ put up massive numbers, 37.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, and about 11 assists per game. Again, on poor efficiency and a lot of turnovers, but man, Andre Roberson was the next leading scorer for OKC. And if you know anything about Andre Roberson, that's not a good thing. Houston was deeper, more balanced, and the Rockets won the series in 5 games. And just like that, the MVP season ended early. But here's the thing. This year wasn't about championships, it was about defiance. It was about proving that he didn't need Durant to dominate. It was about proving to everyone that he was a superstar. Now it was time for Russ to be the leader of a contender. OKC committed to building around Russ. OKC traded for Paul George, then they added Carmelo Anthony. On paper, this looked dangerous. Russ, PG, and Melo. 3 All-Stars, 3 big names, 3 guys who could get you 25 on any given night. For a moment, Thunder fans felt like contenders again. But basketball isn't played on paper. The fit was awkward. Melo was no longer prime Melo, but he was still playing like he was. Paul George locked down on defense, but the chemistry took time. And Russ, he was still Russ. High usage, high energy, high variance. They finished with 48 wins. Solid but disappointing considering the aspirations this big three had. Then came the playoffs. In the first round, they matched up against the Utah Jazz, led by a rookie Donovan Mitchell, and that rookie cooked them. PG, who came 4th in DPOY voting, could not hold Spida. Mitchell averaged over 28 points per game in the series. Meanwhile, OKC looked chaotic. Russ and PG went from superstar to Bronny James on a game-to-game basis. Melo struggled from the field throughout the series, and in Game 6, with their backs against the wall, Russell Westbrook shot 18 for 43. Dog, he took 43 shots, and if we're being honest, this is one of Westbrook's flaws. He has a ridiculously high usage rate, which allows him to put up crazy numbers and win games, but man, he makes a lot of bad decisions and takes a lot of bad shots. This game he did finish with 46 points, an inefficient 46, but still 46. Playoff P, meanwhile, put up 5 points with 6 turnovers and shot 2 of 16 from the field, which comes out to 12.5%. The rookie had 38 points, by the way. And just like that, the Big Three experiment crashed in the first round. Now every team needs a scapegoat, and that scapegoat became Carmelo Anthony. Suddenly it was, he doesn't fit, he's washed, he can't defend. Melo took the brunt of the criticism, but the deeper issue? The Thunder offense stalled in crunch time. The spacing wasn't ideal, and Westbrook's efficiency dipped when it mattered most. Still putting up numbers, still averaging a triple-double again, but the narrative was shifting. The MVP season was heroic. This season felt frustrating, and for the first time people started asking, can you win a championship with Russell Westbrook as your best player? In 2019, Carmelo was gone. Now it was just Russ and Paul George, and PG leveled up, like we're talking MVP leveled up. That year he averaged 28 points, 8 boards, and 4 assists, and finished top 3 in MVP voting, and top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He was a legitimate two-way monster. Westbrook, meanwhile, averaged a triple-double for his 3rd straight season. On paper, this Thunder team resembled a team from years past. So surely this time it would be different. It wasn't. The Thunder finished with 49 wins and drew the Portland Trail Blazers in the first round, led by Damian Lillard. Now Russ and Dame already had history. Trash talk, waves goodbye, competitive tension. This series felt personal. And for stretches it was electric. Dame and CJ going back and forth with Russ and PG. But OKC looked inconsistent again. The offense stalled again, and shot selection got questionable again. And then, Game 5. Tie game, clock winding down, you know what time it is. Lillard pulls up from what might as well have been the parking lot. Some say it was a bad shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bad shot.
Dame waves goodbye. Another season, same old Russ. An incredible game like Game 3 with 33 points, 5 boards, and 11 assists with a win. And 2 nights later, it's followed by 5 of 21 from the field in a blowout loss. And just like that, the Russell Westbrook era in Oklahoma City effectively ended. Not with a finals appearance, not with redemption, but with a 37-foot dagger. That offseason, the Thunder made a decision. If this core couldn't get over the hump, it was time to reset. Paul George was traded to the Clippers for some stuff. And then Russell Westbrook, the face of the franchise, the loyalty guy, the MVP, the heartbeat of OKC, was sent to the Houston Rockets. Reunited with James Harden, the experiment that broke up in 2012, now running it back. And Houston had felt disappointment of their own, so this time it wouldn't be about growth, it would be about pressure. 2020 was strange. The NBA shut down, the world shut down, the season paused in the middle of its story. There was no rhythm, no long-term narrative arcs, no real chemistry building stretch. And when the league resumed inside the Orlando bubble, it felt like basketball was dropped into a sci-fi movie. There were empty arenas, virtual fans, neutral courts. In theory, it was anyone's championship. Russell Westbrook and James Harden were reunited on the Houston Rockets. Except this wasn't 2012. This was 2 former MVPs, both high usage, ball dominant, rhythm heavy guards, trying to share one system. And Houston bought into this system, trading their 7-foot center Clint Capella for Robert Covington, and completely going all in on small ball, 5-out spacing, and playing at an ultra-fast pace. And for a stretch in the regular season, it actually worked. Russ attacked the rim relentlessly. Harden spaced and orchestrated, the offense looked modern, fast, and dangerous. But coexistence was never smooth. Both players needed the ball in their hands to feel comfortable. Both players thrived in isolation. And in the playoffs, the margins shrink. Westbrook had suffered a quadriceps injury during the NBA restart, causing him to miss the first 4 games of the first round. And when he returned to face his former team, the Thunder, he was clearly not 100%. Russ only averaged 15 points, 6 boards, and 4 assists in his 3 games. Still, Harden managed to carry Houston past OKC in 7 games, where they would now have to play the LA Lakers. LeBron and Anthony Davis, size, skill, and experience. And the small ball experiment ran into a wall. The Lakers punished mismatches, controlled the paint, and dominated the glass. Here we really got to see a flaw in Westbrook's game, which is of course his play without the ball. It's no secret that Westbrook cannot shoot threes, and the issue with this is that it makes it harder on all of his teammates to score, since Russ's man can always help off and leave Westbrook open on the perimeter without any real repercussions. Despite Westbrook's athleticism, he often just stands still at the 3-point line rather than cutting and trying to make the defense react to him. And the Lakers took full advantage of this. Now this loss isn't just Westbrook's fault. Yes, he played pretty bad for his standards if we're being honest, but he was coming off of an injury and it was going to be hard for Houston to stop the size of Bron and AD no matter what. Remember, this is bubble AD after all. Anyways, Houston lost in 5 games, and just like that, the double MVP backcourt experiment was over almost as quickly as it began. No conference finals, no breakthrough. That offseason, Houston pivoted, and Russell Westbrook was sent to the Washington Wizards. Another city, another reset, another chapter. And at this point in his career, the narrative had fully shifted, from franchise cornerstone to superstar searching for fit. Westbrook spent 1 season with the Washington Wizards, teaming up with Bradley Beal on a roster that, let's be honest, was not exactly built for contention. Westbrook averaged a triple-double once again and surpassed Oscar Robertson for the most career triple-doubles in NBA history.
And there it is, history. Russell Westbrook has just surpassed Oscar Robertson. It lasted 47 years, and now Russell Westbrook stands there all alone.
Washington was mediocre for most of the season, but they did sneak into the playoffs via the play-in, where they faced the 76ers. Russ averaged another inefficient triple-double in the playoffs before losing in 5 games to Philadelphia. Russ proved he could still put up numbers, but the gap between production and winning was getting harder to ignore. And then came the move that would change everything: Los Angeles. Yes, the LA Lakers traded for Russell Westbrook, and in typical LA fashion, they targeted a big name, a former MVP, the triple-double king. But from a basketball fit perspective, it raised eyebrows immediately. The Lakers had just won a championship in 2020 built around defense, size, and role players who complemented LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Guys who could shoot, play perimeter defense, and overall were just low-usage guys who knew their role. When they traded for Russ, they essentially tore apart that championship depth. And the question everyone asked was simple: why? The Lakers already had a primary ball handler in LeBron. They already had interior scoring with AD. What they lacked was three-point shooting, aka floor spacing and perimeter defense, two things Westbrook was never known for. This wasn't about talent. Russ was still talented. This was about fit. Westbrook thrives with the ball in his hands, attacking downhill, dictating space. LeBron thrives with the ball in his hands, attacking downhill, dictating pace. Two dominant creators, one basketball. Sound familiar? And when things started going wrong, they went very wrong. Spacing looked cramped, late game offense looked awkward, turnovers piled up, missed jumpers became louder and louder. And this is really when the nickname Westbrick exploded into mainstream conversation. Every missed three felt magnified under the Hollywood spotlight, every turnover trended, and here's the unfair part. Russ ended up shouldering most of the blame. Was he perfect? No. Did his shooting limitations hurt? Yes, but the roster construction itself was flawed from the beginning. This wasn't a plug-and-play situation, it was a square peg trying to fit in a triangle hole. In 2022, the Lakers won only 33 games and missed the playoffs. A team with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook barely managed to win 33 games. The following season, Westbrook eventually even accepted a bench role. A former MVP coming off the bench, now in LA.
Come off the bench. I don't know any Olympia that come off the bench. I don't know any All-Star that come off the bench. I don't know any former MVP that come off the bench.
And that's how far the narrative had shifted from triple-double king to sixth-man experiment. And it still didn't work. And by the trade deadline in 2023, the Lakers moved on. The tenure was messy, it was loud, and it was polarizing. But it also showed something important. Russ was willing to adapt at least a little bit. After the Lakers chapter closed, Russ didn't leave Los Angeles. He just switched lockers. Westbrook signed with the LA Clippers, and this time, the expectations were different. No Big Three savior, no Hollywood pressure campaign, no championship or bust headlines with his name in bold. This was a smaller, more controlled, more realistic role. And for the first time in his career, Russ genuinely took a step back. Not just in minutes, but in his role. He defended harder, he picked his spots, and he hustled for loose balls. The explosiveness was still there, the competitiveness never left, but the usage dropped. And it worked. Teammates praised his energy, the pace improved when he was on the floor, he embraced the dirty work. For a player who had spent over a decade being the engine of an offense, this was real growth. It wasn't MVP Russ, it was veteran Russ. And for stretches, it genuinely helped the Clippers stay competitive when injuries hit their stars. And when Kawhi and Paul George are your stars, that's very important. Like in the 2023 playoffs, where Paul George was absent with a leg injury, and Kawhi only played 2 games. So once again, Russ was looked to carry the offense. Westbrook averaged 23.5 points, 7.5 boards, and 7.5 assists through 5 games where the Clippers would fall to the Suns. Despite the loss, Russ proved that he still had some gas left in the tank. The next season, Westbrook fully took on a bench role after the Clippers traded for James Harden. Russ was still giving some solid production off the bench, but once again the Clippers would lose in the first round, which makes what happened next interesting. Despite solid production in a reduced role, the Clippers chose not to re-sign him in the 2024 offseason. And that quiet exit almost says everything about this stage of his career. Russ was no longer the franchise centerpiece, he was a movable veteran piece, valuable but not foundational. Next, Westbrook signed with the Denver Nuggets. Once again in Denver, Westbrook gave the Nuggets some solid minutes off the bench and provided some ball handling and passing Denver had always been missing from its reserves. But once the playoffs started, opposing teams once again schemed around Westbrook's weaknesses. His inability to shoot and at times his questionable decision-making made him a liability on the court. Denver would fall in 7 hard-fought games to the Thunder, and in the offseason, Denver instructed Westbrook to opt out of his player option and become a free agent.
Speculation that they had sort of...
The speculation, the truth is that they didn't want me back. It ended up to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
And for a while, it looked like no team would sign him. And people started speculating that we had seen the finale of Westbrook's career. But finally, in October, Sacramento came calling. Now, it was no secret that the Kings were terrible. This wasn't a situation where Westbrook could go and compete for a title. It simply was another opportunity for Russ to play ball. And yeah, the Kings were awful. Ethical tankers, some would say. No resting stars, no making trades to try and get worse, just straight ass hoops. But Russ was a bright spot in a very bad season. No matter what, Russ was going to go out there and play with energy and passion, which has always been commendable. Even when the Kings were 12-45, Russ would still go out there and give 110%. And that's that. This has been Westbrook's career so far. A career built on numbers, on records, on moments. Maybe not on championships, but that's okay. Because not every all-time great story ends with confetti. Yes, you can nitpick, you can say he should have developed a more reliable jumper. You can say the turnovers were costly. You can say the defense slipped during his peak usage years. All fair. But let's also be honest about what we witnessed. We saw one of the fastest guards the league has ever seen. One of the strongest at his position, relentless in transition and explosive off 2 feet. The greatest rebounding point guard in NBA history, a player who averaged a triple-double not once but multiple times, something that hadn't been done since Oscar Robertson in the 1960s. An MVP, a perennial all-star, an all-NBA staple, a future first-ballot Hall of Famer, and maybe most importantly, effort was never a question. You can criticize Russ for a lot of things, but you can never say he quit. You can't say he didn't care, you can't say he didn't play with fire. For every critic calling him reckless, there's a fan who saw inspiration. For every Westbrick joke, there's someone who saw a player who played the game at 100% speed every single night. He gave Oklahoma City an identity, he brought millions of fans joy, he made the regular season feel urgent, he made athleticism feel like willpower. From OKC cornerstone to MVP, to journeyman to role player, it's not the traditional superstar arc, but it might be one of the most fascinating careers we've ever seen. And whether you love him or criticize him, you will never forget him, and that might be the ultimate legacy.
Bleed out, dedication, hard work, sacrifice, meditation. I meditate upon the goal that I'm trying to reach, grinding all day to the top and I ain't trying to sleep.